Warning, the following broadcast contains adult language, adult content, frank safety discussions, and stories that might sound unbelievable. But believe me, every one of those stories is true. We didn't start the safety war, but we are going to fight to win it. For our families, for our communities, for our workplaces, and for our lives. And from OSHA Region 3, this is Safety Wars for Tuesday, July 8th, 2025. It's been a couple of days. We had that nice, long holiday weekend. And a lot of crisis out there, a lot of problems. We're going to talk about it today. What am I talking about is the floods along the Guadalupe River in Texas, specifically Kerr County. A lot of stuff going on out there, a lot of questions not being asked. And immediately, what did we get? Of course, politicized. Again, politicians come out from everywhere. We're doing all that we can to aid in the recovery. To the budget cuts. The budget cuts. Yeah, that's your complaint. And on the other hand, global climate change is what we could do. What we're worried about. And then on the other hand, wonderful emergency responders. And maybe all of them have some truth, right, to it. Let's be fair. And what happens? In an emergency, what do people do? They go back to what their training is. They go back to what their default is. This is why in the workplace safety, whenever you get people, when there is emergency, what are we worried about? We're worried about paper. Well, can we add in another procedure? Can we add in another checklist? Can we do this? And how do we blame the worker and deflect all the blame away from us? And, on the other end, we're going to blame this guy. And what do we know from human organizational performance? Blame fixes nothing. And blame is not going to fix this situation here with this. It's, first of all, I'm going to offer my heartfelt condolences here to all the families that were impacted here. In the extended Safety Wars family, one of my wife's coworkers, her daughter was a mentor at this camp for the last couple of years, and they know some, if not most, of the people who were killed here, the children that were killed here. Nobody wants to hear anything about children dying. And I'm going to tell you, if you are easily triggered, this may not be the program for you. If you want some honest questions as to what needs to be asked and other things, this is the program for you. All right, so we're going to start out here, right, with a couple of things. And by the way, a lot of heroes here. There are a lot of heroes with this whole situation. Now, we're going to go over some basic emergency response and disaster preparation and everything else that goes on in here. So I'm going to share right up here. Something I put together a couple years ago at a disaster preparation class. And if you're in the military, this is going to be, because I took some military, what's the word I'm looking for? A class taught by a military guy. Marines. Yusuf Badu, right? Was American Marine. He teaches situational awareness. And that's the first time I heard of left and right of the bang. Some people call it lean safety also. And this has broad-based things. So what the idea is, you have left of the bang and right of the bang. And the bang is in the military what they call the event, whatever that is. So on the left of the bang, you're all about prevention and preparation. On the right of the bang, you're all about response, what you're going to do afterwards. Here. And when we list this out, and if we're going to go through this a little bit for the podcast, the audio audience here. Video audience, hold on, let's see, make sure that we have the video audience up and running. And of course, nothing's, it's recording. Okay, good. So for the video audience, you already see this. So you have training on the left-hand side, right? Left of the bang, training, plans, regulations, hierarchy and controls, PPE, work modes, equipment inspection, good work habits, first aid training, emergency action plans, housekeeping, attention to tasks, human organizational performance, reporting of incidents, accidents, and illnesses, work area design, management, leadership, qualified persons, competent persons. You make sure that your first responders are all out there. They have what they need. You make sure that your emergency plans, you provide stuff for your community, and everything that goes on to that. Now, you have the event. Now you got to worry about the other side of things. Death, moral hazard. Right? If you're dealing with an organization, you have to worry about moral hazard. First aid, emergency response, regulatory involvement, accident management, workers' comp, and I could go on and on. Accident investigation, root cause analysis, lawyers, right, or legal action, human resources, PTSD, family notifications, funerals, hospitalization, police, fire department, emergency managers, emergency management. Out of those, what would you rather deal with? Left or right of the bang? I would rather deal with the left of the bang. All the preparation out there and everything else that goes into this. Why? Why? Because that's easy. You can control that. You prevent things. You save lives. Right? Like the old Benjamin Franklin / Bonham Richard's Almanac. Right? An ounce of prevention worth a pound of cure. We would rather be there. Now we go to what we are set up to do. And I mean, it's very easy to play Monday morning quarterback here and have if you had known that something like this was going to happen, would you have acted differently? That's very easy to do. That's not what the point is. We're going to get to this in a minute, what the point is. Not more than a minute. It's safety wars. Can't do anything in a minute here, right? So now we're on the other side. What are we set up for in our society? We're set up for more of the right of the bang. Well, how are we going to respond to the emergency? What are we going to do about responding to it? Right? That's how it is, and that's all that's in there. And I'm going to be honest with you. That looks wonderful for the cameras. Doesn't it? Doesn't that look wonderful for the cameras to have something like that? We have forget the name of it. The guys on the boats, the Redneck Navy, I think they call it. They're out there doing their thing. Heroes. You have that guy from New Jersey, that Coast Guardsman. Guess what? He rescued 169 people out there or something. You have firefighters, police, right? Police, ambulance people, all doing their job. Wonderful, wonderful that we have them. It's wonderful that we have folks that are out there to respond. I salute you. I give you a nice safety word salute there. We got to have, but we have to have some fundamental things change in our society. It's going to take a long time, but we need to have that. Remember, we had, let's see, in the last couple of years, we had the LA fires. I haven't checked back on their meetings, but guess what? That fire commissioner, let's see what's going on. right? And Mayor Bass has the stones to go out there and start criticizing these people in Kerr County here, right? And everything else, criticizing. Yeah, that's really conducive. Didn't work so well for you, right? With what your problem in January, Mayor Bass. Then you have, the situations, right, in Uvalde, Texas, about 2.5 hours away from here. School gets shot up. Nobody knows what the hell they're doing because they never had free, right? We'll take it free FEMA independent study training. IS 700 starting with, and then it goes up from that. Didn't have it. Nobody knew what the hell was going on. Who's in charge? We don't know who's in charge. We have people with all behavior problems that haven't been assessed or any whatever else here. We didn't have the school say, well, that costs too much money. Okay. By the way, I did a little research today before the program. How much? Oh, you're getting it. Everyone's getting double-barreled today. Before this program, it was the last report was 160 plus dead, including all those campers out there. How much is the life of a teenager in a lawsuit, do you think? Any guess? Because there's going to be a lawsuit. Someone's going to do a payout here. Someone's going to have to learn. Because that's our only avenue. We're not into locking up public officials in this country yet for not doing their job. For doing illegal stuff, yeah, but not for doing their job, they're not doing it. We're not doing that yet. And there's a debate on sovereign immunity, which we have had here a couple of times, as to whether these elected officials who don't do anything, it appears, some of them, a lot of them great, some of them don't. So let's talk about this. We're going to go back to the beginning here, right? And if you are following along, let me get it here. I have it ready to go. Signal Transmission Trilogy by our own Jay Allen. Fantastic book. To try to understand the psychology of what goes on here with these things, this is now Jimmy Posel will declare this is an essential book. Because it explains what happens with groupthink and organizations. So we're going to start here, right? Let's how do I even no after that? How do I even get here? Right? All right, I closed something out here. All right. So here we have, right? What is safety? That's our first question here. What is safety? And if you're listening to this from day one, you know what it is. What is safety? Is it, and I had the conversation twice today. Safety is zero accidents, zero illnesses, zero injuries, 0, 0, 0. All across, we get the damn zero, nice green and white sign, 0. Is that safety? Or is it the presence of controls, safeguards, and everything else, and resilience? So your capacity and resilience. That's how we define it here. So the more controls you have in this situation, meaning you have emergency sirens. They said, and we're going to talk about that, they said they were too expensive. Well, let's talk about the cost of human life. It's 500 to 5 million, 500,000 to 5 million. Multiply by 160, and what do you get? A whole bunch of money, right? Here, I don't want to get off track. Wasn't that right? Now let's with that. Now, at the time that they made the decisions not to put in air raid sirens or something similar, community alert sirens, they didn't have enough money. And and I'm going to mention his name, Alex Jones said today, I saw a clip, well, these are like little poor towns in the middle of nowhere. Okay, there are 15,000 households in that Kern County. Just to let you know. I get it. But if they knew that this would have happened, would have $1 million for an air raid siren been worth it? Because now, how much money are they spending on doing all this other stuff? How much moral hazard is out there for them? Right? And how much public damage have they done? Now the public, fresh out of COVID, fresh off of all these other problems that can't be managed, for whatever reason, doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on, left wing or right wing, doesn't matter. People do not trust government. Now you just added to that. Now you just added to all these people. How much would it have been now? You think it's going to cost you more than $1 million to solve this problem? And by the way, in 87, you had this problem happen in this area. Think it would have cost more or less? What do you think this is going to cost? Well, guess what? Yeah. Mike, number 2. Who are the decision makers in 2016 who decided not to prepare for this crap? I want to know who they are, because I see all these news articles and not one name is mentioned other than a sheriff that said, hey, I told them about this and they said it was too much money. All right. Are you a safety? Well, Jim, why would that happen? Okay, let's say that you're a safety professional. All right, you're a safety professional. Have you ever heard the response? Well, we don't have enough money for that situation to solve that, to get that piece of equipment, to buy PPE, to do that industrial hygiene audit, to get first aid CPR training, to get worker health and safety training. Right? Sounds real. If you're a safety professional, this should be you got to hear this all the time. You hear this all the time. So the congressman there, name escapes me. We'll be naming him out in a little bit. He was asked on an interview, well, why were the camps there? Well, the camps got to be near the water. That's where they belong. Oh, really? Couldn't move them to higher ground. Couldn't plan them out. No, this is where they are since the 1920s. Oh, really? Oh, great response, dude. Explain what more money and workers would have done differently at the National Weather Service. That was an original one, an immediate one. This happened. Donald Trump did X, Y, and Z, cut all blah, blah, blah. This impacted that. Well, guess what? Then it turns out 2 or 3 days later, National Weather Service, might be a duck and cover situation, said, no, that really didn't have anything to do with it. Okay. All right. Maybe this is a place where the private sector could come in, right? For weather monitoring. I mean, I pay for one app. That's a Lightning app. Perhaps that lights just came on. That's my hotel room, right? With that, right? Uvalde, we mentioned that 19. So Texas has an issue of with this kind of stuff. And no, I'll say they're not the only place. I'm not picking on Texas. Look at LA, right? With that, look at what we just went through with COVID. I wonder who was saying for years that we're not prepared and we should be prepared for this stuff better. And I wonder who that was prior to this program, prior to COVID. Have people gotten too soft and relied on the government and not themselves or mature common sense? I don't have an answer to that one. Our culture has changed. We expect more from the government. We're paying a lot of money in tax. We expect more. Right? I remember when I was, after 9/11, when we were trying to do disaster preparation work with organizations, we heard, well, the government should be, what should be work, not the average individual on anything disaster. The government should. And the guy said, well, you know what? The government says you have to have 3 to 5 days worth of food. Yeah, but the government will take care of us. That's the crap that I heard in central Jersey, northern New Jersey. Oh, okay, the government will take care of you. Here's another question. Every summer camp that I'm aware of out there, and there's stuff, they have to have an emergency plan. Doesn't say who approves it. Doesn't say if it has to be good or not. Doesn't say a lot of things. What was the emergency plan here? And unfortunately, the one man who could probably answer that is dead. Right? How do we move forward? I'm frustrated, as you see. Very angry, very angry today, right? Like my thing usually says, right? Something. So let's try to go through this. Error is normal. The reason why we have multiple layers of safety is capacity and resilience, your ability to do stuff and your ability to be to adapt, is that if one thing fails, not everything fails. Here they're relying on a camp counselor in the middle of the night to go. I don't know what the conditions of this camp were, but every camp I've been into at night has lighting out there. Now you're relying, and even if you don't, now you're relying on camp counselors to run through and wake people up in the middle of the night. I was one of the dudes that slept through the fire alarm in college. Oh, yeah. This wasn't Seton Hall. New Jersey is famous for the Seton Hall fire, where people fell asleep. Blame fixes nothing. We're not going around blaming people, but let's face it. If the people who are in charge today were around in 2016 and made these decisions, vote them out of office, Kerr County. Right? Hold them accountable. Why weren't these things, there has to be an investigation. Why weren't these done? Why weren't, all right? And on the other hand, is this. If you're a county official and you made this case, you have to ask, why wasn't I able to make the case? So I'm going to recommend you go out and get this book, The Signal Transmission Trilogy by our friend Jay Allen. Because the problem is not your content, right? Your problem is not your content. Your problem is the connection. I've seen plenty of safety people, I've been one, where I give wonderful content. It's planned out. It's in there. It's good. It's scientifically valid. It's legally valid. And it will make the safety people wonderful. Right? They're good. It'll make a safe workplace. But guess what? You don't have a connection with the people. So you know what it is? Oh, very nice, Jimmy. Very nice. And then they walk away. Oh, yeah. Learning is vital. I don't know, haven't we had a lot of learning opportunities here lately in our society? They're not, right? We've had, let's say, multiple floods. Go on the FEMA website. We've covered them. All the disasters that are out there. Aren't we learning off of them? If it happens, we can learn a lot. Now, what I would do, right, is like what I said everybody do after the LA fires. Go around in your town, take pictures of all those areas, the parks that are not being maintained. Find out where the fire, where the fire likelihood is for brush fires, and go to your local fire commission. Go to your mayor. what do you do? We just had all these fires in LA. We have similar conditions here. What the bleep are we doing? If you own a house or property, what are the hazards in my property? How do I resolve this? Hey, we're living in a floodplain here. Maybe we got to think about what we're going to do if we have a flood. How are we going to be prepared? Learning is vital. Leadership response matters. Are you freaking out? Right? We usually would say, well, hey, are people freaking out? Blah, 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 blah. Right? And your response, yelling and screaming. Blah. Well, what have we had? Our leaders point the finger, blame one another, and everything else. Doesn't work. What you need is a leader to go up there and say, look, we're going to do a full-blown investigation here. We're going to figure out what happened, and we're going to make recommendations, we're going to improve. Sort of like the 9/11 Commission. Right? Because happens all the time with these floods and everything else. What are we not doing in our communities to protect our community? That should be the question that we're all asking. Remember, if you're from New Jersey, New York area, Seabright, New Jersey. Seabright, you saw the same 5 houses get flooded on the news every year for hurricane season. And they got rebuilt every year. Sooner or later, what happened? Insurance companies said, we're not paying for this. We're not covering this flood insurance. So they had Blue Acres start in New Jersey. Right? They have Green Acres, or they buy land. Blue Acres, or they buy flood-prone land. Perhaps we could do that in Texas. Right? Maybe there could be a room for creative solutions here. We'll move the camps up. We'll build levees. We'll do whatever. Put the camps in a safer location. Relocate these camps. Maybe that's the solution. There's got to be a solution, because I tell you what, they say, well, this is a 100-year flood. Oh, great. The global warming people, they may be right, they expect more of this. Guess what? They may be wrong, too, because flood levels, water levels have been rising for years, like 27,000 years. But, again, creative solutions with that. Those are some of my opening rant here. It's been a long freaking time since I did a rant. But we're going to go into some of the news coverage here after some commercial breaks here.
Safety Wars is streaming now.
SafetyFM.com.
From the front lines of the safety war, it's Safety Wars, with your host, Jim Posel on Safety FM. Get ready to face the harsh reality.
Is your safety training old, stale, and hackneyed? Is your safety trainer still preaching a warped version of behavior-based safety? How about safety training that is designed to actually address and assess your hazards and liabilities and is not standardized baloney from generations ago? Contact the Safety Wars team at safetywars.com or call me, Jim Posel, at 845-269-5772. Remember, if you are receiving this message, you are the solution to unsafe workplaces.
I don't think people understand the true cost of negligence in construction. A suburban Madison contractor with a deadly track record is in hot water again. Already cited for fatal safety violations in 2022, the company was caught exposing workers to deadly fall hazards in February 2024. During a federal inspection, 6 employees were found working 12 feet up without protective gear. OSHA slapped them with 1 willful, 2 repeat, and 5 serious violations, proposing $144,505 in fines. Just 4 months ago, OSHA found similar hazards at another site, leading to more citations. Back in 2022, a worker was crushed by a 1,000-pound wall. The company was cited for 11 violations and has been a deadbeat and hasn't paid any of the penalties. OSHA's Chad Greenwood stated, "The company shows a blatant disregard for worker safety. Stay informed and stay safe. Visit safetywars.com. Listen to us on your favorite podcast platform as Safety Wars."
Tell them Jim Posel from Safety Wars sent you. See you out there in the world of safety.
The safety war has begun. The risks are out there, lurking in every corner of the workplace, threatening our most valuable asset, our people. But we have a plan. Led by Jim Posel, we are the last line of defense in this battle against danger and negligence. We will fight for safety, for compliance, for the right of every worker to return home unscathed. Join us on this journey through the unknown, where vigilance is our weapon and knowledge is our shield. This is Safety Wars, our fight, our duty, our mission. Heard regularly on your favorite podcast platform as Safety Wars? Visit us at safetywars.com.
OSHA recordables, catastrophic losses, environmental disasters. You want answers? So do I. This is Jim Posel with Safety Wars.
That's my daddy.
Yes, Jessica, I am your father. All right. So we're in our ongoing coverage here of this whole situation down in Texas. Here. This is from right before our program. We're going to run through there. This is from Fox News. Texas flooding death toll surpasses 100 as Camp Mystic campers counselor remain missing. Texas Governor Greg Abbott said his state will not stop until every missing person is found. That's good, but how about we do some prevention here, dude? Wouldn't that be great? Following devastating flooding in central Texas over the 4th of July weekend that has left at least 105 confirmed dead. 5 young girls and a counselor from Camp Mystic Hunt remain missing Tuesday. Here we have another one. Texas man haunted by the desperate screams of children during the deadly Hill County flash floods. Kerr and Hill right next to each other. Texas resident Bud Bolton called on the Guadalupe River Authority to step up and put a system in place that alerts people of rising waters. He now lives with the sounds of screaming children who cannot be rescued in time during catastrophic floods in the Hill Country region over the weekend. Texas Republican lawmaker reveals why traditional flood sirens aren't enough. Yeah, but at least you're adding another control in here. State Representative Verdal from Texas said additional technology needs to be incorporated into Texas Hill Country region to provide alerts to people about rising waters like those that devastated the area over the weekend. And this was on John Roberts, the co-host of Fox News America Report, spoke with Verdal about the rescue in there, right? Now, let me, right now, I'm watching a thunderstorm move through the area I'm in. All right? One of the jobs that I have, one of my duties on the project that I'm working on now is I have to be there to monitor the apps for weather, specifically lightning. We have specific lightning hazards on this job, and that's all I can really say about it. So they had to assign. So it's not only me. It's okay. You have Jim with one phone. Then you got like 3 or 4 other people with phones for the weather app, the appropriate one. And if you're interested in advertising here, it could be a call 845-269-5772. Guess what? The alerts over a cell phone, there are 3 different companies we have represented on site, 3 different cell phone carriers. We get the alerts 3 different times. So again, not a perfect solution, but you're at least adding to the what is safety, the presence of controls, you're adding another control in. RFK Jr. steps up for Texans their darkest hour after devastating floods. The HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy declared a public health emergency for the state of Texas on Tuesday to ensure those affected by catastrophic flooding have immediate access to critical health care resources. The emergency declaration allows healthcare providers from across the country to step in quickly, support survivors and their family, and he assured Texans that he's had regular conversations with Governor Greg Abbott. And I mean, these are heartbreaking stories here going through here. Right? And they're talking about communities rallying and everything. That's all great. That's right of the bang. But we want to do things left of the bang. Hold on. Hold on. I know, I got phone calls here. On the air. All right. Texas flooding death toll surpasses 100, right? We've talked about that. How rapidly here, right? So on Tuesday, July 2nd, the Texas Division of Emergency Management said it activated state emergency response resources in anticipation of increased threats of flooding in parts of west and central Texas, right? Thursday, July 3rd, 10:48. The National Weather Service Weather Prediction Center upgrades portions of South Texas, including Kerr County and surrounding areas, to level 2 of 4 risk for excessive rainfall. A flood watch was issued at 1:18 for the National Weather Service Austin San Antonio office, including Kerr County and surrounding areas. The alert mentions locally heavily rainfall could cause flash flooding in the region with isolated amounts of 5 to 7 inches. Excessive runoff may result in flooding rivers, creeks, streams, and other low-lying flood-prone areas. 6:10. This is on the 3rd. Increasing concern for a slow-moving training thunderstorm, meaning rounds of thunderstorms moving over the same area. Friday, July 4th, 1:14 a.m., a flash flood warning is issued for Bandera and Kerr counties, including a considerable alert tag. Right? Flash flood warnings with impact-based warning tags considerable or catastrophic denote high damage threats, according to the National Weather Service, and will automatically trigger wireless emergency alerts. There is another one. Right? Wireless emergency alerts on enabled mobile devices, including NOAA weather bands. I used to have one of those. Maybe I should get another one. And then going on, 3:35, the original flash flood warning is upgraded and includes more serious and specific wording. Move to higher ground now. Quickly protect your life. Flooding is occurring or is imminent. 4:03, the flash flood warning is upgraded to a flash flood emergency for South Kerr. Right? And it goes in there. Numerous water crossings as well, low water crossings as well as the Guadalupe River and Hunt are flooding. Between 4 and 10 inches of rain have fallen. The expected rainfall rate is 2 to 4 inches in 1 hour. Right? And then it goes on. This is a flash flood emergency for South Central Kerr County, including Hunt. This is a particularly dangerous situation. Seek higher ground now. First reports of flash flooding start coming in at 4:35. Right? There. So we have 4:03, so you have a 32-minute window there to get to higher ground is what it looks like. And it goes on and on and on. And then it goes on with Saturday, Sunday. So now there were warnings out there. Could they have been issued earlier? Perhaps, but there needs to be a detailed investigation of this. Not politicians screaming and yelling at shit on the radio, right, on the TV. There's another one from Fox News. Texas flood victims received hours of critical warning through the emergency mobile alert system. Government emergency alerts bypass network congestion, deliver critical warnings. Well, what happened here? That's my question. What happened here? With the timeline. And again, timelines are important. Again, no, the children likely did not have cell phones with them, so now they're relying on adults with good coverage on the phone. Going on and on and on. Again, I can't share any of these articles because they're not government articles. People know heart doing the coverage, right? And the rush to get first. Death toll climbs. I'm looking at all this. Another one. Be careful where you're donating. Here we have one from the Associated Press. As authorities search for victims of the flash floods in Texas that killed more than 100 people over the 4th of July holiday weekend, social media users are spreading false claims that it was caused by weather modification. But officials say there is no evidence that the floods are the result of cloud seeding, and experts agree that cloud seeding would not result in precipitation of this magnitude. Okay, here we have some more timelines here. All right, so here we have the story from Wall Street Journal. This was from July 6th, 2 days ago. A former sheriff pushed Kerr County commissioners nearly a decade ago to adopt a more robust flood warning system, telling government officials how he spent hours in those helicopters pulling kids out of trees here in our summer camps, according to meeting records. Then Sheriff Rusty Hierholzer was a prominent proponent of outdoor sirens, having responded as a deputy to 1987 floods that killed 10 teenagers at a camp in nearby Kendall County. He made the comments in 2016 after deadly floods ravaged a different part of Texas the year before. We were trying to think of what can we do to make sure this never happens here? Hierholzer, who served as Kerr County Sheriff from 2000 to 2020, 20 years that is, recalled in an interview Sunday with the Wall Street Journal. That's why we were looking at everything that we could come up with, whether it be sirens, whether it be any or other systems that we could. The suggestion from him and others was never adopted. Again, good content didn't resonate with anybody. Why was that? We need answers. Right? They don't name names in this article, and I'm not going to name names. But those public officials have to be asked. Why didn't you do X, Y, and Z? We have to do this before the governor pardons all of them. We have to do that. And if they are in office now, right, they need to be voted out of office. I'm sorry, they got to get voted out of office. And many officials in Kerr County, this was the other day, the 6th, they had 70 people here. Minutes of their public meeting showed an inability to get state and federal funds has been a delaying factor. The delay of getting state and federal funds. Well, it was a delay. Not that it was never going to happen. It's a delay, according to the article. These outdoor warning sirens have been installed in other flood-prone Texas counties, including Comal and Kendall, which also sit along the Guadalupe River. Sirens went off in the Kendall County community of covered when floodwaters approached there after inundating Kerr County early Friday. And hard-hit Kerr County, where families of the missing await and hope, right? Many people are asking what more could have been done. A reasonable question. And in March 2016, and by the way, I'm going to, before I go on, who wrote this? Scott Calvert, John West, Jim Carlton, Joe Barrett for the Wall Street Journal. Gentlemen, I assume they're all men. Yes, they're, right? Just by the name, right? You can't tell nowadays. Gentlemen, I salute you. Thank you. Right? For writing an article that asks that this is probably the best article I've seen here with this. In hard-hit Kerr County, where families are missing weight and hope, blah, blah, blah. At a March 2016 meeting of the county commissioners, the officials debated whether to follow the lead of other Texas counties by installing sirens to warn people along the Guadalupe River and other low-lying places of impending floodwaters. Then Commissioner Tom Moser noted that other Texas locations had state-of-the-art flood warning systems, or they weren't used locally, even though this was probably one of the highest flood-prone areas in the entire state. W.D. Thomas, then Kerr County's emergency management coordinator, said summer camps and RV parks along the river weren't all connected to a wireless alert system the county had relied on. I think an audible system located at strategic points along the river would give those folks the needed information they need to get out. Hirholzer said at the time that the county needed sirens in addition to its Code Red system, which sends alerts to the public using pre-recorded telephone calls, text messages, and emails. Some people didn't get to the phone alerts during the 2015 flooding, so yes, you need both. Moser in 2017 again emphasized the need for a better warning system. The big challenge, I think, the many times that we've met on the subject has been how do you get the information to the public? If you don't get that information to the public in a timely way, then this whole thing is not worth it. In 2018, Moser said the county applied for a $1 million grant for a flood warning system, but didn't get one. That application was not selected. That's the bad news, he said at the meeting. Moser said in an interview on Sunday that Kerr County considered picking up the tab itself, but did not include the cost in the annual budget. It was probably just, I hate to say the word, priorities, trying not to raise taxes. Officials took other steps, he said, such as adding barriers over low water crossings and flood gauges. We just didn't implement a sophisticated system that gave an early warning system. Don't need sophisticated. Air horns are not sophisticated. Sorry. Everybody wants these fancy systems. Guess what? Air horns, we've had them since air raid horns. We've had them since at least the 1940s, World War II, after World War II. Sorry, no excuse here, guys. Meanwhile, a bill introduced earlier this year in Texas legislature to create a statewide program to help fund those outdoor sirens and other emergency alerts died in committee. Which was the committee, and who are the members of that committee? And we need to vote out the ones who did not vote for this. They need to be voted out. So our only thing that we can do for this, our only redress, that's what I'm looking for to do, vote them out of office. They can't make the case. Why can't they make the case? Thomas, who is still in the county emergency manager, did not return a request for comment. Yeah, I bet he didn't. He was a little bit busy. And, my question is, when did he call his attorney, if he hasn't already? If he hasn't called his attorney, I would suggest when he gets a chance, call the attorney. But put the priority on rescuing the people who are still out there. There are people out there that could be out there for a week, up to a week here. After the recent disaster, a woman whose friends nearly lost her children to floods at Mystic and other camps along the Guadalupe started a petition to get a flood warning system set up. In a news conference on Saturday, Representative Chip Roy, from Texas, said, quote, there's a lot of people saying why and how, and I understand that, and I understand why parents would be asking those questions. He also called it a once-in-a-century flood and pointed to the heroic efforts of camp leaders to save lives. Okay, great. We're focused on that. I've always said this. Rather than action heroes, we got to have prevention heroes out there. Rather than an accident prevention hero, a catastrophic prevention hero. This is what I did to prevent an accident. This is what I did to prevent this. Accident prevention hero. Cam Mystic owner Dick Eastland died while trying to drive several girls to safety, and the vehicle was swept away by floodwaters. According to people familiar with the matter, Roy, who typically spends 4th of July at a big celebration in Kerrville, said in an interview with the Journal on Sunday that the area's long experience with floods probably colored the camp's response to the warnings. I think what happened was that when they went to bed, they knew there were flash flood warnings. There was a lot of rain. Was generally considered in the concerning, pay attention, but we get this Texas range. So they were ignored. Boy who cried wolf situation. When you start trying to evacuate people, that can get real messy really fast. In the past, they've done that, and they've had a situation where a bus got swept away, so they're cautious about what they do. So is the option do nothing? Is that what you're saying? So it appears a decision was made to ride out the storm, and then you get to have a massive rush of water at the worst possible time, a holiday 4 a.m. to 6 a.m., the moment in time, dark, and it's just brutal. I'm not second-guessing the emergency response, according to her. And guess what? I'm not second-guessing the emergency response. You have a bunch of real bad choices here. Real groove-nose sandwich you got to eat here. How do we respond to this? Because there was no one's interested in making the case for prevention. I think they're all doing and all did everything they could possibly do. Yeah, of course I'm not criticizing any emergency responder here. Again, they got the groove-nose sandwich to deal with. What else we got? As floods hit, this is from New York Times on July 5th. As floods hit, key roles are vacant at the Weather Service offices in Texas. Okay, so those roles were vacant for months. Why couldn't Texas pick up the slack here? My question. Texas flood victims' fear says local officials blames Trump's National Weather Service over failed warnings. This is from the dailymail.co.uk from July 6th. Right. This is from the Texas Tribune. I better make this into a PDF here because I don't want to have to pay for it. In Texas region prone to catastrophic floods, questions grow about the lack of warning. Just went over this, and it's a rather lengthy article here. Again, I'm going to be interested in seeing the final report. That's what I got here for this. Different kind of program. This is a different kind of program. Tonight. These questions keep coming up every time we have a disaster. Why weren't they prepared? Why didn't the government do X, Y, and Z? So this is what I want you to do. Right? If you're in a flood-prone area, go out and ask your local emergency managers. Be the leader in your community. Ask a question. Why are we prepared for something like this? Are we prepared for this? What are we doing to prevent these situations from happening? It's a fair question. We have 106, right? And they say, well, we don't have enough money. And then you say, well, according to the law, people's lives are worth between $500 and $5 million. After the fact, would it have been a lot of money to spend to prevent this? If it's going to cost us that much on the end? And you know what they're thinking in their head? What do they think in their head? They're thinking like a lot of people think. Well, that comes from a different line item. The payouts come from the insurance company, not from this, not from us up front. Oh, yeah. That's the thinking. For a lot of these people, how do I know that? Because that's what I was told on a lot of things. Well, that comes from a different line item. That's how government planners think. Because it doesn't come from my budget, it comes from another budget. The prevention budget is my budget, and I got to show that I got blah, blah. But guess what? The payout budget for any accidents happen on the other end. Not my problem. Think that's corporate thinking? I've heard it at least a half a dozen times in my life. Right? I've heard it at least 5. I know that because I've done 5 fatality investigations. I'm not bragging. I've heard 5, and that was one of them. Well, that's from another one. I don't know. AI is going to have a real good time taking the clips out of here. So that's what we have. And we're going to go with a moment of silence for the victims here. And then we'll do our outro and we'll be out of here. Please use this time to say a prayer or pay your respects in whatever way you feel necessary. Amen.
The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the host and its guest and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the company. Examples of analysis discussed within this podcast are only examples. They should not be utilized in the real world as the only solution available, as they are based only on very limited and dated open source information. Assumptions made within this analysis are not reflective of the position of the company. No part of this podcast may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, mechanical, electronic, recording, or otherwise, without prior written permission of the creator of the podcast, Jay Allen.